Hello, my name is Eric Putkonen. Thank you for joining me. Today I'm going to be talking about knowing the self. From time to time, I have people tell me that, hey, I realize there's no me, there's silence of mind, there's nothing there, and yet I can't seem to know the self. I haven't realized the self. And what they're kind of asking for is I haven't seen the object. I haven't found it where I can go, oh, that's me. And unfortunately, that never comes to pass. The self never becomes an object of perception. Just like the eye cannot see itself. Now, if someone wants to be kind of clever and say, well, you can look at a mirror and see the eye, they fail to understand what they're looking at is really a mirror that's creating a reflection. They're not looking at the eye. The eye is not seeing itself. The eye is seeing a reflection on a mirror. Likewise, the mind and thought and concept can create a reflection of the self, and we can become aware of that. But that is not the self. For any object of awareness is not the self, is not who and what you are. Not this, not that. Any object. And so if you're like, yes, I'm aware of the self, is that me? If you're meaning that's an object, I'm aware of the object of the self, that's not really the self. That's maybe a reflection in the mind at best. No, the eye cannot see itself. And so the question becomes, well, how does the self know itself? Well, you know the eye because you see. Seeing is knowing the eye. You know the eye exists, you know the eye is functioning, you know the eye is everything it should be because you see. You don't need to, the eye doesn't need to see itself in order to know the eye. Simply seeing is knowing the eye. Likewise, for the self, it's simply being. It's consciousness. It's existence. There's consciousness, there's existence, awareness. That is the self. And in being consciousness, you know consciousness. Consciousness, the self, doesn't become an object that you can look at and go, that is consciousness, or that is the self. You are it. And so the very fact that you are it is knowing it. The issue, of course, is we think we're a bunch of other things. And that's where you get into neti-neti and self-inquiry, self-investigation, self-examination, all these different ways of delving into the I you feel and think yourself to be and removing that. Because once you remove all these objects, there's an opportunity to just be and realize that being is the self, and that is knowing the self. Note that does not become self-knowledge. Self-knowledge, knowledge in any form, is something of the past. Knowledge is a concept that we package of something that we experienced in the past. Knowledge would be, I know there's that ding or scratch on my car. Why? Because I've seen it before. And so there's this knowledge of the condition of the car is not a knowing, it's a packaging of information. And that conceptual understanding is not it. So it's not self-knowledge we're going for. It's self-knowing. It's knowing the self. And you know the self by realizing you are the self. And in being, you know the self. I know it might sound a little strange, but it is. That is the problem with trying to treat it as an object, is because it never becomes an object. You are it. And so the closest you really become, perhaps, is in this state of don't know, not knowing. Because when you go, well, I don't know the self, well, you know that's actually quite close to the truth of it, because when you say you don't know, it means you're not holding any knowledge of the self. And as I said, you could never know the self in terms of knowledge. It's knowing the self, and the very act and fact of being from moment to moment. Just like to know the eye is seeing, not that you have seen or saw something in the past. That's knowledge. That's packaging it. The very fact of knowing the eye is the moment to moment seeing. Seeing is knowing the eye. And so don't turn it into a concept. Don't turn it into knowledge. Because all knowledge, including self-knowledge, is of the past. It's in the grave. It's now a concept in the mind. It's become another object. And so this is yet another object. You need to go, not this, not that, and toss it away. Only when there's a total absence of concept. And yeah, there is this not knowing, and the ego and the thinking mind might even rebel against this. Well, I don't know. Just abide and don't know, and become very comfortable with not knowing and the mystery. And it's possible to then, know the self, knowing the self directly, because you are being the self. Anyways, if you have any questions, comments, please post below. As always, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. But until next time, thank you much.